You have to understand that baseball, in terms of its popularity, to some degree anyway, is diminishing before our very eyes. In terms of when you watch the NBA, when you watch the NFL, what's being talked about, what's being watched, when you look at the games, the highlights, and you see how many empty seats are at these stadiums or what have you, clearly there's a generational hit that has taken place in terms of just having an appeal to the younger generation. And then when you couple that with what we've been seeing in terms of these drug scandals, performance-enhancing drugs, and the kind of manner in which it has contributed to sullying the brand that is Major League Baseball, the blow is potentially devastating. As it pertains to Alex Rodriguez, he's just going to have to deal with things. I mean, I went off on my radio show on 98.7 FM in New York yesterday, Skip, blasting the Yankees because I feel like, as an individual franchise, do your due diligence. You decided to sign him to a 10-year deal. That's on you. Stop trying to sit there and do what you can to contribute to the shrapnel of criticism that is coming in the direction of Alex Rodriguez, to get your own self off the hook. Own the mistakes you've made as a franchise. But as it pertains to Major League Baseball, I have no problem with their approach whatsoever. They've been fighting with the Players Association for more than a decade in terms of trying to get steroids testing and all of that stuff. What they had to go through to get to this point just highlights the arrogance of the players as a body, meaning the MLB PA. And so because of all of that, it's come to the point where Major League Baseball itself has the support of the public and has the support of the government as it pertains to cleaning up its sport, and I applaud it. If this is true, this is a devastating blow. But I tip my cap to baseball for addressing this with the fervor it deserves, because they're making a concerted effort to show that they want their sport clean. And I particularly am enjoying the fact that they're going after Ryan Braun, too, who I think, and I'm going to say this on national TV, I think this man is a flagrant liar. Just an absolute liar. And I'm going to tell you why. It's not just because he got off on a technicality, Skip.
Yep.
When you play a game last night, in the immediate aftermath of the report coming down that you could end up getting a 100-game suspension, and you look at the media, and they ask you, did it enter your mind during the game? And so, oh, no, I didn't think about it at all. Right there, I know you're lying. I know you're lying right there. So you can't even admit that you thought about it? You can't even admit that it crossed your mind? You can't admit something as simple as that? Look in the history book, Skip. Every single liar that we have seen in American history always denies the most obvious generic thing. That's how they get busted. When you can't even admit. So in other words, a 100-game suspension could be coming down. You could be losing millions. Not to mention the fact that the federal government may get involved. And it doesn't even cross your mind. You're not thinking about it at all. You're just up there trying to hit the ball and field the ball, and there's nothing else on your mind. That kind of stuff right there is when you always know somebody's lying, when you can't even admit the most basic thing imaginable. That's why I believe Ryan Braun is a liar, and that's why I believe these boys are in trouble. But it's good for Major League Baseball to do this.
I believe he's a liar, too. But I find great irony in your conclusion that this is a devastating blow for the sport of baseball. And I'll tell you why. I know where you're going with this, but I can argue the other side of devastating blow right now. And that is, a lot of people are turned off that baseball continues to fight against the use of PEDs. Mike and Mike did great segments on this morning. Well, because you got the younger generation that you say is turning away from the game, in part, and they used a lot of the voicemails this morning from some of their listeners on Mike and Mike, and we've gotten all kinds of email, Twitter response on this. They're turning away because they think baseball has cracked down to the point that they've taken the fun, the home run fun, out of baseball. Remember the old slogan, the marketing slogan back in '98, chicks dig the long ball. Remember that? Is that before your time?
Chicks dig the long ball.
Chicks dig the long ball. Okay?
Yeah.
It was the Nike commercial. Well, We all dig the long ball. Man, I dug the long ball. I was right in the middle covering that 98 great home run race, the summer that saved baseball.
Yeah.
Has baseball ever been more popular than it was in the summer of 1998? Sosa versus McGuire versus Sosa versus McGuire. It was sensational, Stephen A. Balls were flying out of the park. Record pace. And it was steroid driven. We're not dead sure about Sosa, but we're sure about Mark McGuire, and I'm still pretty sure about Sammy Sosa.
Yes, we are.
Okay. So
Yeah.
my point to you is, baseball continues to fight back against the Victor Contis and the Balcos and the Tony Bosches and the shuttered clinics. And there's going to be more of them. They'll pop up one after another because they will continue to try to beat the system. But I want to applaud baseball, as you are right now, for saying, no, we're not going to look the other way. We're going to try to stamp out PED use in our sport. Now, there's older generations, the parents who want role models who are saying, go baseball, go. Thank you for doing this. It's a dark day for baseball in a lot of ways because there are a lot of big names on this list, even beyond A-Rod and Braun. But the point is, Stephen A., the younger generation is saying, here we go again. It's getting more and more boring by the day. Do you see what I mean? They're going to completely outlaw PED use.
I see your point, but there's a bigger picture, obviously, and I'm sure you know this, in terms of steroid use and the kind of damage it can do to a human being.
Sure.
You have some people who are advocates of the use of steroids, obviously in moderation. They're not advocating that there be harm to your body or anything like that. No. But at the same time, you know how people would latch on to something and become a bit excessive with it. We know the damage that it has done. We've heard from parents who've testified on Capitol Hill
no
about the detrimental use of performance-enhancing drugs. So we know all of those stories. And baseball is sensitive to that, and they're right to be that way. And in terms of the generational appeal, the game is a bit too slow.
Yeah.
They need to figure out a way to speed up the game. And I think that if you did that, people would be more interested in the sport. But to speak directly about this latest scandal, listen, whoever's guilty of it needs to get busted. And they need to pay a price, instituted and implemented by Major League Baseball. I think it's important for us to highlight and stress that there's a dichotomy that should exist between Major League Baseball and individual franchises, because we all know that there were players and organizations complicit in the use of performance-enhancing drugs. If they had a particular player that was smacking home runs and filling the seats at the ballpark and bringing in television ratings, they turned a blind eye and a deaf ear to it. They sat there and gave away these bloated contracts because they were counting on the dollars coming in, the revenue coming in that would offset whatever they paid in salary. And that's why, whether it's the Yankees, who I love dearly, the St. Louis Cardinals with Mr. Steroid himself, Mark McGuire, that's right, let's not forget his name, okay? And the list goes on and on. Let's be clear that baseball doing what it's doing is right. The individual franchises who profited off of that stuff and benefited from it, I don't want to hear from them because they're a bunch of flaming hypocrites if they do speak up about this. I want to hear it. All of them were complicit. Major League Baseball itself was the ones fighting with the Players Association. The franchises turned a blind eye and a deaf ear to it. They were complicit in all of this, and as far as I'm concerned, they should suffer the consequences too.